Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Planet Tyro. It's me, your boy Donald Wonder, in a much more sobering review / discussion for a book series that I've been teasing for a long time. This has been one of my favorite books, possibly of all time, because it's had a much more cerebral and poignant effect on my perspective in life. And 2020 has been such a devastating year with COVID-19, pandemic, deaths. I say deaths because at the time of this recording, it's Saturday the 29th of August. In the morning, I was on Instagram and I just saw a post that Chadwick Boseman has just passed away after battling cancer for nearly 4 years. And the reason why I bring this up, this book series I'm going to talk about talks about death a lot and the characters facing death. And when I looked into Chadwick Boseman's death, it was a very big shock to me because he never mentioned it publicly. And you know, apparently he was battling colon cancer for 4 years, so he knew his time was coming. And all these books, this is a book series I'm going to talk about. They talk about characters that deal with death in multiple ways, and I think there's a lot of catharsis in what this book series tackles, and especially in the very last book, which I'll put on the screen. This book definitely really brings home a lot of the thought processes I'm going through now, thinking about this new death. I'm going to talk about Chadwick Boseman separately on our podcast, Voice of Mail. So if you want to hear us talk about that separately, I'm just bringing it up to say rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Here's a book series that deals with death in a very poignant way that actually celebrates life. I really enjoyed it. I've wanted to talk to you guys for the longest time, and yeah, I really enjoyed listening to it on Audible. So let me get into the review discussion. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, and let's talk about a book series that had a profound effect on me because it gave me a lot of things to think about and a new way to think about life. Check it out if you want, but hear me fawn over it a little bit. Thanks for listening. All right, guys, we're back in presentation mode so we can have a longer discussion about the Middle Fours time travel series by Shawn Inman, a series that I've been teasing you guys about for a long time. I didn't really want to talk about it until I was finished reading the whole series. I came across this one on Audible. I got an Audible membership. I saw the word time travel and I thought, you know what? I haven't read a good time travel series in a long time. On this channel, I think the last time travel series book I spoke to you guys about was Hollow World, which was decent. But actually, I should make a correction. This isn't necessarily a time travel series, it's a time loop series, which is, I think, is very specific. There's a lot of different types of time travel. This is the repeating of someone's life again and again and again. Ironically, there was a movie that was just released by one of the guys at Lonely Island made a movie. It had J.K. Simmons in it as well. I think it was called, was it Palm Springs? I think it was called. Really good movie about, again, a guy living in a looped existence. And I think there are a lot of good themes you can get out of these kind of stories. Maybe you guys are not going to enjoy this as much as I did, but I guess I'm at an age now where I'm becoming very pensive. I'm in my mid-30s now. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of choices. And as you get older, you start to wonder about your life choices. There's so much that I got from this series that was so incredibly relatable to me as a person, but there's a sci-fi element that spoke to the nerd in me in this series. So putting all my praise to a side, let me just tell you guys what it's about in case you have no idea. So the Middle Fours time series is set in this town in America called Middle Falls, and each book focuses on a different person at a different time. I feel like the time span of these books is set between the 60s to modern time, to now. The first book has a character called Thomas Weaver in it, and again, when the book starts for him, I believe it's the 50s or the 60s. You just hear about his life as a teenager, living his life, very slice of life, nothing really interesting or important. There's a tragedy that happens with his brother. something really tragic that seems to just change the trajectory of his life. Then we jump to him being an adult in the book. His life hasn't gone well. He's kind of miserable. He's not happy with his job. His life has gone to shit. His life comes to an end in a very depressing way. But then he wakes up and he's back in the 60s again, and he remembers the life he has, and he doesn't understand what's going on. And without going into spoilers, this book series is about people in Middle Falls waking up at a certain point and reliving their life again and again and again and again. So you would think that this would be boring, of 12 books of this, or maybe you're thinking, I don't really care about these people. But I found myself engrossed because Shawn Inman wrote really intriguing characters. I found them pretty intriguing. Now, I didn't love every single book in the series, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. And 4 of the books are absolutely standout for me. They resonated with me. And the thing I found really interesting is that, you know, when you watch a movie like, let's say Groundhog Day, for example, you see him mapping out the town, learning about people, taking advantage of the situation. It's like being God in your own universe, especially when you know you've got all the time in the world. But then as things go on, as your life keeps on repeating, you try to find meaning in the repetitiveness, then it can feel like a curse. So there's layers to live in this kind of existence. There was one book, I think it was I forgot, it's Joe Hart. I think it was book number 6. I will check in a minute. But this character was like me. Like, what would you do if you kept on waking up back in the 90s, for example, or, you know, in your teens, and you had all the knowledge of the world? What would you do with that knowledge? Now, some of these characters in these books, they made choices I wouldn't make at all. But it was interesting to hear the choices they made. Now, Joe Hart, he was a character that was most like myself, in my opinion. He knew stuff about his friends he tried to change. He knew things about world events he tried to change. He was a super nerd. And that was book 6 that I found really cool. But man, there were so many themes in this book. It really made me think about life in a different way. A lot of these characters are lost. A lot of them are selfish. A lot of them, you know, don't know what they're doing, and they have a lot of regret in their life. And for some reason, I don't know why, maybe again because I'm middle-aged myself, I'm in my mid-30s, I feel a lot of the regret and a lot of the things that these characters are thinking, I think. But then when you hear these characters reset their lives again and again and make these choices, it kind of makes you reflect on your life. Like, would I do that? Or wouldn't I do that? And that's honestly, that was one of the things that made this whole series very, very enjoyable. And because you get a different character, you have a different experience every time. So again, I would have to go book by book by book to talk about the things I loved and didn't love and because honestly, it's, in a way, this isn't the most deep, cerebral experience, but it's a very human story. I think all these stories, all these people are real people. They're flawed. This isn't, even though I feel like there's a redemption of a lot of these characters learning about what really matters in life. And to me, that's the theme of all of these books. I think all of these characters eventually start to realize what really matters. You know, all the stuff they were chasing, money, success, taking advantage of, knowing things, but does that really make them happy? And that's what I started to ask myself, like, you know what? I wonder what I would do, or what really makes me happy in my life. And it really sounds sentimental with me, but this book series actually helped me make some life decisions, because the characters had real life decisions to make, and maybe they didn't make the right one, and then the next life they tried, it wasn't. And it really made me think about what really matters in life. When you hear someone live their whole life through these books and then realize they made a mistake, or they would rather do it different, or they weren't even happy, it made me think about what really makes me happy in my life. But yeah, so there's that part that obviously I feel very attached to the series because it had a visceral effect on my thought process, which is there isn't a lot of books that has made me think about my life in real life. Most times I read books for escapism, but this book really made me reflect upon myself and it was entertaining at the same time. Every time a book came out, I was eagerly waiting to find out. I was interested to find out what kind of life each new character, Shawn Inman, was gonna, what path was I gonna follow and what decisions they were gonna make. It really grabbed me. Now, saying that, usually when I like sci-fi books, I like stuff that's even a lot more highbrow, a lot more nerdy. And I will say the time reset in this book series, like the mythology of the series, that what is the, like, you watch Avengers and things like Sliders, parallel universes. When you get really nerdy and you really want to understand the concept of what the author, what kind of science is the author using? Is he using parallel universe, alternate dimensions? Now, to be honest with you, I am in this book series. There's something called, I'm even forgetting. I think it's called the Life Center, the Life Recycle Center, the Life Center, whatever. A place where people overwatch people's lives. Most times I like to nitpick about the science of a book, or but to be honest with you, it didn't matter to me as much this time. Who are the watchers? Who are these people watching over them? How can they manipulate their lives? And what is God in this universe? To be honest with you, the science fiction elements of the time travel system in this book series was less interesting to me than the character stuff. The character development was so much more interesting than the fictional science, that it drew me in every time. So yeah, it's a 12 series book series. I really want to go into more detail, but it's just one of those things I really think you have to experience. I think I'm somewhat being overly sentimental about this series, honestly, but it just had, I hate to use the word profound, but I don't know what it was about this series that really spoke to me, that was entertaining. But I don't know, maybe you might think this is just, Don, you're just being too mushy, or, maybe, why are you being so touchy-feeling about this? I don't know. I honestly don't know why this book resonated with me so much. I feel like I did explain the character stuff was so engrossing to me, but there's something about the decisions that you have to make as a person that when you're a fly on the wall, when you're a reader listening to these characters that are written excellently. Shawn Inman really did write these characters excellently. I was really impressed. They felt real. The decisions felt real. The second book in particular, I believe that is the redemption of Michael Hollister. This character was a villain in the first book. And the way that Shawn Inman writes his character, seeing his life story from his perspective and knowing why he became the evil person he became from the first book, and redeeming that character in the most honest and believable way, not shying away from some really dark stuff. Honestly, the second book, I've seen the reviews on Goodreads. People say the second book is the strongest, and I can understand why, because it's probably one of the most rawest, honest books I've read. And I really think that is definitely one of the strongest books in the series. It's not my favorite, personally, but it is such a strong book series. If you just read the first 3 books or the first 4 books, I think you'll realize if you're gonna like the series or not. Personally, I loved 4 books, so because I really wanna. For those of you who've read the books and listening, you might be interested to know what of the 12 books, which were the 4 were my favorites. Second one, the Michael Hollister book, was fantastic. The fourth one, The Life of Nathaniel Moon. And now I know this is a book that a lot of people felt 50-50 on, because it was quite a departure from the down-to-earth normal characters the book series dealt with. This was basically, I don't want to call him like an alien or a superhero, but this character was exhibiting a lot of supernatural powers that honestly I found very interesting from a narrative standpoint, because it wasn't just a person who had all these powers, it's what he chose to do with it. And the relationship between Nathaniel Moon and his mother was truly endearing, and the ending was saccharine. It was saccharine, but I loved it. I really did. It was tragic and saccharine, but I thought it was beautiful. Nathaniel Moon is a beautiful story, but I understand why some people said it was a bit left, especially from what the character usually did. Again, the Joe Hart book, I think that was book 6. The Changing Lives of Joe Hart is the book. The character that felt most like me. I love Joe Hart. I think Joe Hart is my favorite book of the series, because I really felt that character. I really felt what the character was going through and the decisions they were making. And I just really felt like this is the character I would be. in that book. And my last favorite book is book number 10, The Empathetic Life of Rebecca Wright. I love that book so much because, you guys know that me and my sister are so tight. Me and her speak on the podcast, stuff like that. But I love the brother-sister relationship, and Rebecca Wright as a character is amazing. I love her as well, what she's going through, how she changes, and the relationship with her mother and her. I can relate to so much in this series. I loved it. It was such a relatable series for a time travel series. But I do have a few. I can't just praise the book to heaven. I got a few caveats, and I don't. I hate to bring race into this, but a lot of these, I'm a black guy reviewing the book series. I wish I saw characters of more ethnicities, but again, the Shawn Inman, and I hate to make this good, but why are you bringing race into this? I just would love to see this universe expand, and Shawn Inman would. Now, I will say, for a character to write a story about, let's say if Shawn Inman wrote a story about a black character going through the times of, prejudice in the 60s with all the racial issues going on, he never lived that life, so I can't expect him to write a story about that. But I wouldn't mind to see him give it a try or collaborate with an author, because I remember, I think he, one of the books was in like a relation to his own sister in real life. And he spoke to her, and even one of the other female characters he wrote about, he said he spoke to women. So I really hope he taps into some other characters he can write from a maybe middle fools. I'm assuming they would have characters from different ethnicities. I'm only saying different ethnicities because I think we can get even a more unique perspective, and that's one thing I think he really did well. Dealing with men and women of different ages, and I think one or two of them were different ethnicities. But I would just think he can go even further with that. So I was hoping to see that in these first 12 books. Maybe we could see that in the next. He said he's going to return to the series. I hope he does. As you heard me say, I listened to it on Audible. The Audible performances by the multiple voice actors were great. I highly recommend checking this out on Audible. I like the length of the books. I think they're as long as they need to be. When I was reading them, at first, I wasn't happy with I think it's called the Universal Life Center. I wasn't happy with the explanation of it, but like I said, over time, the science fiction played the second part to the characterization and what the characters were going through, because that is what the story was about. The characters' lives, them making choices, and then coming to terms with who they are. And again, for me, the theme of this whole series was what really matters. What really matters. Now, one of my and I've been rambling about this book, and again I feel very very self-conscious about how much I enjoy this book, because I just feel like maybe you have to be in the right space to like this book, because maybe, I don't know, I would recommend this book to a lot of people. If you want to know my rating, I would give this a first class. I really enjoyed it. Not every book is as strong as a 12 series book is not going to be all like hitting it out of the park. But I feel like this book series bats above average on a whole. But the books that stand out really hit home, really stand out. And I think Shawn Inman is a very, very good writer. I like the reviews I saw of it on Audible and Goodreads. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. One of my takeaways from reading these characters reset their lives, 10, 20, 30 times, even killed themselves in the book to try to get their life back in order. And in real life, you only get one shot. So I'm like, if these characters have to live lifetimes before they get it right, us human beings, with our finite lives, it's so hard for us to get it right. And maybe that's another reason why I was so engrossed with the series, because it really made me feel my mortality, that I really should reflect on what makes me happy and what really matters, because I don't have 100 lives. But the author, Shawn Inman, has such a creative drive to explore that in this series, and that made it really enjoyable. So yeah, the Middle Falls Time Travel series, I'm looking forward to coming back to this universe. The main reason I want to see more diversity is just I want to see different characters. I want him to mix it up even more. And I guess they don't have to be black or Asian or whatever, but I just want him to add more chemistry, creativity in it when it comes back. But as far as it goes, I recommend the Middle Falls time travel series, and if you just read the first 3 books, I think you'll know if you want to finish it. But there's some people, I gave it to my sister, she loved it. Yeah, the book covers are kind of creepy though. The actual covers look like something you'll see on Unsolved Mysteries or Crime Watch, which is kind of creepy. That's my other criticism. I think that's it. The Middle Force Time series, honestly, I have enjoyed it so much over these years. I really respect Shawn Inman's work ethic of putting out so many books over 4 years. I'm noticing with authors, actually, they're pumping out more books more frequently, which is amazing. And my last commendation to Shawn Inman. And honestly, I know authors don't like doing this a lot, but I'm finding them do it more and more. At the end of each book, Shawn Inman would explain his thought process on making these books, and I loved it. I loved hearing how he came to make these characters, how it came to be, because it's not like looking behind the curtain. Because to me, once he's written the books are their own universes. Him explaining how it came to be, it really just makes the series more interesting for me. Now I know a lot of people don't want to hear, just tell the story. I don't want to hear how the joke. Some people don't want to know how the pie is made. But for me, personally, I love hearing an author explain how a book is. I just read a book series called The Assassin. I don't know if I'm going to review it. It's called The Age of Assassin, or I think it's called the Withering Empire series. I'll put it on the screen on YouTube. But the author, at the end of that trilogy, I recommend that trilogy as well. It's a bit cerebral and a bit more about intrigue than actually action, but I enjoyed the series. Anyway, that author was talking about, at the end of the trilogy, he spoke about what he was doing with the characters and how his perspective. And honestly, I loved having my own thoughts on it and hearing the author's thoughts on it. And with Shawn Inman's breakdown of every book, I loved it as well. So Shawn Inman, I'm going to tweet you this review actually, because I really, this black British guy really appreciated hearing this book about these, Middle Americans somewhere in Middle America. I can't remember the state it's meant to be in. I really enjoyed it. Audio performances were great. And I can't wait to come back to this world. Now, I do know Shawn Inman's writing the new time travel series. I think he's more of an adventure one. He announced on his last book. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's about. But yeah, this was a really good time travel, time looping series. And I think the last thing I'm going to say is there was a movie called Project Almanac, and that was a time loop, people kind of using time. And even the anime Steins Gate, I think that was similar as well. These stories can really bring out some great characterization and good plot situations. So Shawn Inman, please do more. I'm looking forward to that down the line. Guys, have you even heard of the Middle Force Time Travel series? Don't judge the book by its cover, because I think the cover, the actual physical cover, how it looks, is the weakest part of the series. There are really good books. And yeah, maybe I'm just an old sentimental bastard. I don't know, guys. So yeah, this is the book I've been talking about for weeks now. Some people ask me, what is this book about? Now you know. And sorry if you just heard me fawn over the book for 20 minutes. But yeah, I really wanted to get my thoughts out. The book series is finished. Its first 12 book run. Check it out on Audible. If you get the physical book, let me know. Leave a comment down below. And yeah, more book reviews coming down the line, because I'm always reading audiobooks. But if you have a recommendation, leave one in the comments down below. If you have a time travel recommendation book, leave it in the comments down below. Don't forget to check out the playlist for all the book reviews I've done in the top right hand corner as well, or in the description. And I'll see you on the next recording, guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble for so long. Take care. Peace out.